In the sacred and often mysterious dance of twin flames, the energy exchange between the divine masculine and the divine feminine is not just about love, it's about evolution. It is about the unfolding of the soul's deepest truths through connection, separation, surrender, healing, and eventually reunion. Yet, if we look closely at the subtle currents beneath the surface of this powerful journey, it becomes evident that one energy silently steers the unfolding of the connection from within. That energy is the divine feminine. Her leadership is not loud or boastful. She doesn't command with authority or control. Rather, she leads through presence, intuition, healing, and alignment. She leads not by forcing change, but by becoming the change. Her leadership is internal, invisible at times, but immensely powerful. And although this leadership often goes unnoticed by the outer world, or even by her twin, it holds the key to the entire journey's progression. To understand why the divine feminine is the silent leader, we must first recognize that twin flame dynamics are not about traditional gender roles. The divine feminine is an energy, a current of consciousness that both men and women can embody. It is not about being female or male. It is about the qualities of openness, surrender, receptivity, inner knowing, and unconditional love. These are not weaknesses. These are the tools with which she leads. Let's now explore the many layers of her silent leadership. Each of these dimensions shows how the divine feminine, through her inner transformation and emotional strength, becomes the guiding force of the twin flame journey, often without a word being spoken. Number 1, she awakens first, and that awakening sets everything in motion. In most twin flame connections, the divine feminine is the first to awaken. She feels the connection before it is rational. She knows there's something different about this person, even when there are no external signs to prove it. While the divine masculine may sense something as well, he often buries it or runs from it. Meanwhile, the divine feminine turns inward. She asks questions. She looks for meaning. She begins to feel the pull toward self-discovery, healing, and spiritual growth. This initial awakening is more than just a personal experience. It is the first spark of the journey. Her awareness of the connection brings light to it. Without her realization, there would be no mirror held up to the masculine, no catalyst for his transformation. So even though it might seem like he is avoiding or resisting, her very awareness plants the seed of change in both of them. But this awakening is not just about knowing who her twin is. It's about beginning to remember who she is. The divine feminine's journey is one of remembering her power, her worth, and her sacred identity. And through this remembering, she raises her own energy, which begins to affect her twin energetically, whether he is consciously aware of it or not. This phase often involves intense emotional highs and lows. There's confusion, longing, and sometimes unbearable pain. But all of it becomes fuel for her spiritual growth. She begins to explore the depths of her soul, her childhood wounds, her subconscious beliefs, and all the patterns she's carried for lifetimes. She becomes a seeker, and her seeking brings light into the connection. That is the silent start of her leadership. While the masculine may still be asleep, her awakening already begins to shift the entire connection toward transformation. Number 2, she does the inner work that creates the outer shifts. The divine feminine's journey becomes a journey of healing. And this healing is not superficial. It is raw, deep, and often lonely. She begins to examine the emotional pain, the abandonment wounds, the fear of not being enough. She unpacks the ways she's given her power away, tolerated less than she deserved, or chased love that didn't return her energy. And in this sacred work, she starts to reclaim herself. Her inner work is not just for herself. In the twin flame journey, what one twin heals within ripples into the energy of the other. So as she sheds her fears, releases attachments, and cultivates self-love, she is also softening the energetic resistance in her twin. Her growth becomes the map for his. Even though he might not respond right away, or even appear to regress, the seeds are being planted. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of the twin flame path. Many believe that reunion comes from effort, from reaching out, from trying to fix or convince the other. But the divine feminine learns, often through great pain, that the real path forward is inward. She realizes that healing herself is not selfish. It is the most loving thing she can do, for herself and for the connection. She lets go of the urge to control the outcome. She turns her energy away from constantly watching or waiting for her twin and begins to rebuild her own life. She finds joy in solitude. She reconnects with her creativity, her voice, her passions, and as she rises, so does the frequency of the connection. This inner alignment doesn't just heal, it leads. Quietly, gently, powerfully. Number 3, she holds the space when everything falls apart. There are moments on this journey when everything seems to fall apart. There's separation, silence, rejection, and often deep heartbreak. And in these moments, the divine feminine often becomes the emotional anchor, whether she realizes it or not. While her twin may run, shut down, or disconnect, she remains the one who holds the vision of the soul bond in her heart. Holding space doesn't mean waiting around. It means being grounded in love, even when things don't look loving. It means trusting the journey, even when it hurts. It means refusing to close her heart, even when everything in her wants to shut down. This is not easy. It takes strength to feel the pain and not let it harden you. It takes courage to allow the heart to stay open when it feels vulnerable. Her ability to hold space becomes a spiritual container for transformation. She doesn't force the masculine to change. She doesn't chase him. But she doesn't abandon the love either. She finds a way to stand rooted in truth and compassion, even when it feels unbearable. And in doing so, she becomes a lighthouse, a steady, unwavering light that guides both of them home, even when the seas are stormy and the night is long. This space holding also teaches her emotional mastery. She learns how to feel without being consumed. She learns how to witness her emotions without acting from them. She learns how to trust the unseen. These lessons make her stronger, softer, and wiser. And this depth of emotional maturity eventually mirrors back to her twin, prompting him to begin his own emotional awakening. Number 4, she anchors unconditional love through surrender. The divine feminine's leadership reaches its highest expression in surrender. And surrender is not giving up, it is letting go. Letting go of attachment, of timelines, of the need to control the outcome. This is perhaps the hardest phase of her journey, because it asks her to release what she wants most, while trusting that what is meant for her can never miss her. Unconditional love is not about tolerating bad behavior or waiting forever. It is about recognizing that love doesn't need to be earned, fixed, or proven. It simply is. And when the divine feminine surrenders, she stops making her twin the center of her focus and starts becoming the center of her own universe. She stops chasing union and starts embodying union within herself. This is where she becomes magnetic, not through effort, but through energy. Her presence becomes calm, grounded, and radiant. She no longer seeks love outside of herself because she has found it within. And ironically, this is often when the masculine begins to awaken. Not because she convinced him, but because her energy shifted so profoundly that he can no longer ignore the truth of the connection. Her surrender is her power. It allows the energy to flow freely. It removes resistance. It clears the channel. She leads not by pulling her twin toward her, but by becoming the version of herself that love naturally flows to. And in this state, her leadership becomes invisible but undeniable. She becomes the embodiment of love, and that changes everything. Number 5, she guides the masculine's awakening without words. As the divine feminine rises, her twin often begins his own journey of awakening. But his process looks different. It may begin with confusion, discomfort, or a deep sense of emptiness. He may begin questioning everything, his identity, his relationships, his life path. He may feel lost or stuck, but beneath it all, he is being stirred by her energy. The divine feminine guides this awakening not through what she says, but through what she becomes. Her healing invites him into his own. Her clarity exposes his confusion. Her peace reveals his inner chaos. Her self-worth makes him face the parts of himself that feel unworthy. This mirroring is not always comfortable, but it is necessary. She does not need to preach or explain the connection. In fact, often the more she tries to convince him, the more he resists. But as she pulls back and focuses on her own path, he is left with the echo of her presence. That echo becomes a doorway. Slowly, he begins to feel the stirrings of his soul. He begins to remember, and what he remembers is her, not just as a person, but as a reflection of his own divine self. This is how she leads, silently, energetically, through resonance. She becomes the living proof that transformation is possible, And that lived example is more powerful than any words. It plants the seeds for his evolution. It opens the door for reunion, not because she pushed him there, but because she walked the path first and lit the way. Number 6, she rebuilds her life from the inside out. There comes a turning point in the Divine Feminine's journey, a quiet but powerful shift where she no longer makes her twin the center of her life. This doesn't mean the love disappears. The connection remains, but it's no longer the only thing that defines her. She begins to ask herself deeper questions. Who am I beyond this bond? What do I truly want? What does it mean to live a fulfilled, meaningful life, whether union happens now, later, or not at all? This phase of rebuilding begins from within. She starts by looking at what she truly values. What makes her feel alive? What dreams has she put on hold? Where has she dimmed her light to fit into places or relationships that no longer reflect her truth? These are not small questions. They ask her to strip away all the ways she's lived for others. And in doing so, she begins to hear the voice of her soul more clearly. She starts to make space for herself again. That might mean changing careers, setting new boundaries, or letting go of toxic relationships. It could mean diving into creative projects, exploring spiritual paths, or simply learning how to enjoy her own company. She no longer feels the need to explain or justify these changes. She just knows it's time to return to herself. Emotionally, she begins to choose peace over chaos. She learns to walk away from emotional drama, even if that means letting go of people she once thought she couldn't live without. Spiritually, she deepens her practices: meditation, journaling, self-reflection, or time in nature. Anything that grounds her in her own essence. Physically, she may feel drawn to care for her body with more love and attention, whether through healthier habits, rest, movement, or simply honoring what her body needs. This rebuilding is not done with bitterness or blame. It is done with quiet strength. She understands that the purpose of the pain wasn't to break her, but to guide her back to herself. She doesn't deny the heartbreak or the longing, but she no longer lets it dictate her choices. She realizes that she doesn't have to wait to feel whole, happy, or successful. That wholeness is already inside her. She just had to clear away the distractions to see it. As she begins to live from this space of alignment, her energy changes. There's a calmness in her, a quiet confidence. She's no longer chasing love because she has become love. She is no longer desperate for clarity because she trusts her own intuition. She's no longer exhausted from trying to be enough because she finally knows she always was. And as this transformation takes place, something interesting happens. Her twin, whether consciously or not, feels it. He may not fully understand what's changed, but he senses the shift. She is no longer holding him energetically. She is no longer trying to pull him toward her with expectation or fear. She has let go, not of love, but of the pressure. And that space gives him room to grow. The energy she now carries becomes magnetic. It doesn't pull, it invites. It doesn't beg, it shines. It doesn't need, it offers. And in that space, the masculine may feel a deep stirring. Something inside him begins to awaken, a desire to rise, to face his own shadows, to become the kind of man who can meet her in that same vibration of truth and love. This is the quiet power of the divine feminine. She does not change the journey by force. She changes it by changing herself. She becomes the example, the lighthouse, the mirror, and in doing so, she creates the very energy that calls reunion into being, not from lack, but from fullness. This is not a performance. It's a return to her natural state, and that return is what makes everything else possible. When we speak of leadership, we often imagine someone standing at the front, speaking loudly, guiding others with visible confidence. But the leadership of the divine feminine looks different. It's not about position, persuasion, or control. It's about essence. It's about how she shows up, not just for her twin, but for herself. Her leadership comes through energy, emotion, and embodiment. She does not need the world to validate her strength. She feels it rising from within. She knows her power is not in being aggressive or demanding, but in being present and grounded. She can hold space for both love and pain without being destroyed by either. She can see what is broken and still choose to love. She can walk away from what wounds her and still bless it. This is not weakness. It is depth. And that depth is what makes her irreplaceable in the journey. Many times, the divine feminine may feel invisible. Her growth happens in silence. Her battles are fought in the privacy of her own heart. While the outside world may not notice, the spiritual realm does. Her soul does. Her twin does, even if he cannot name it. Every time she chooses growth over reaction, trust over fear, love over anger, she is moving the entire connection forward. She is the heartbeat of the journey. She is the one who first sees the truth, even when it's clouded by confusion. She is the one who stays open, even when it would be easier to shut down. She is the one who says yes to healing, even when it hurts. And because she walks this path first, she makes it possible for her twin to follow, not because she expects him to, but because she knows that leading by example is more powerful than leading by force. In today's world, where success is often defined by how loud or visible someone is, the divine feminine offers a different path. She teaches us the strength of silence, the wisdom of surrender, and the beauty of inner growth. She shows that true power does not shout, it whispers. It does not force, it flows. It does not dominate, it invites. And yet, for all her softness, she is fierce, not in aggression but in her commitment to truth. She will not abandon herself for love. She will not shrink to make others comfortable. She will not wait forever for someone else to choose her. She chooses herself, again and again, and in that choice she becomes whole. To every divine feminine walking this journey, whether you're in union, separation, or somewhere in between, know this: you are not waiting. You are leading. With every tear you shed, with every wound you heal, with every part of yourself you reclaim, you are lighting the way. You are showing what it means to love deeply without losing yourself, to believe in the connection without clinging to it, to hold space for another while also choosing to rise. Your journey is sacred. Your strength is real. Your love is not unseen. And as you walk this path with courage and grace, you become the very energy that brings healing not only to your twin, but to the world around you. You are not behind. You are ahead. You are not silent. You are powerful. And even if the world doesn't always see it, the universe does. Your soul does. And that is enough. This is the silent power of the divine feminine. Not a whisper of weakness, but the roar of inner truth. Not a shadow in the background, but the light that leads the way. In her becoming, the entire twin flame journey begins to shift, and love, real, sacred, sovereign love, finds its way home.